Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, I'm privileged to welcome a very senior banker from Mumbai, Manish Kothari. Manish, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you for calling me over.
Thank you. Manish is the president and business head of Kotak Mahindra Bank, and he's been with the bank for over 25 years. So, Manish, what would you say are three key milestones in your career or your life?
An interesting one, Ashutosh. And I go back, obviously, in terms of sharing what I believe was the first key milestone from my perspective. And it was when I went for my engineering and stayed in a hostel. Okay. And I was not even 17 then.
Wow.
And I really believe that really changed me as a person in a big way, because in a engineering college hostel during those good old days, it was a kind of survival of the fittest. And during those days, there were no mobile phones. There was no way to connect to your parents or to your comfort zones, if I may call. And those 4 years really changed me as a person, made me far more confident. Made me, I would say, do things independently and not only survive but compete and thrive. Okay. So I guess that's the first thing that comes to my mind. The other two milestones are more related to my career, and interestingly, I was 5 years into my job at Kotak, and I got my first leadership break. It was sheer luck, I would say. My boss happened to, we were an NBFC then, we were not a bank, just to clarify. And it was a very small business. I was a part of that business, and my boss decided to leave. And as luck would have it, he took the northern region head and the southern region head and the product head along with him. So I was the only senior most person, so to say, while I was, like I said, 5 years into the job, present in that particular fledgling team of 10 odd people. And yes, in true Kotak style, I guess my boss told me that I'm giving you the opportunity to run the business, the entire business, but I won't give you the title of business head. You prove yourself for the next 9 months. In this year, if you do well, I'll call you a business head.
Okay.
And well, things fell in place, and I became a business head at the young age of 31, and I happened to run that entire business. It was a small business, but nevertheless, I guess first leadership break to run an entire business on my own. So that, I guess, again gave me a lot of confidence that I can run things independently.
Yeah.
And I can manage a team of people across India, and I can think for the business and build a business. And the third milestone, again from the perspective of my career, came in when in 2009 we just came out of a crisis, Lehman crisis, and I used to run at that point in time the mid-market business as part of the corporate bank. Mid-sized companies is what I used to run. And there was a lady who used to head the entire corporate bank, and she happened to move out. And one of her seasoned resource also happened to move out, who was heading a very large part of the corporate bank. And again, I got the opportunity. Kotak decided to merge mid-market and the corporate bank. And 2009 April, I became the head for the corporate bank. And like I said, I didn't have a role to play, so to say, in making that big break happen. But that again defined, it was a milestone purely because of the fact that I got into handling a dramatically larger business in terms of size and shape. Yeah, I was running a business which was pan-India, which had a certain size. It almost more than doubled in terms of size, and it gave a much larger footprint and a much larger team and much larger business potential in terms of what I could build.
Very interesting.
So that was the third milestone.
Very interesting. So let's talk about Kotak Mahindra Bank. You know, you became business head when you were 31, and I see you're still business head, but you got president added before that. So what is your current role as president and business head?
So as the head of the corporate bank, I run four businesses as part of the corporate bank. So I run the large corporate segment. I run the what we call the SME segment. Then the third segment which I run is the multinational corporates, and the fourth segment which I run is an interesting one. We have called it the new age companies business.
Okay.
So the likes of Amazons and the Flipkarts and the Oyos and the Paytms, the new age businesses which are disrupting the landscape.
Right.
That's the new age business, and along with it, the what we call the corporate liabilities business, because it's a slightly, I would say, a credit light from the banking terminology point of view. That's the how we define the segment. So these are the four business segments I run as head of the corporate bank.
Okay.
Additionally, I also manage the entire back end for the entire wholesale bank, which is what we call the support services, the business intelligence unit, the monitoring and the policies, processes, and the marketing for the entire wholesale bank. So that's the, I would say, the back end support piece, which I additionally run along with my responsibility of running a business.
Fabulous. So, you've been a banker almost your entire life. Over the last 2.5, 3 decades, what are some of the significant changes you have seen in banking?
So I prefer to call myself a businessman and not necessarily a banker.
Okay, a businessman. Okay, businessman who runs a bank. Okay,
who runs multiple businesses in the bank, because we were not a bank when I joined Kotak. So I learned banking as we grew and became a bank. So it was an NBFC then. So yes, while banker is a nice term, but at Kotak, I would prefer to call myself a businessman because that's how one thinks. But banking has, if I were to say, in the last 2.5 decades, which I have had the opportunity to see it up close, it has changed dramatically. And if I were to put it in very simple terms, I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is it used to be a pull business. It is now a push business. It means that customers had to go to the bank to avail of banking services.
Correct.
And today the bank has to reach out to customer to offer its services. So that's a big dramatic change. The second piece that comes to my mind is very clearly with respect to banking is dramatically more about technology today. Individuals as well as companies can effectively consume almost all the banking products on offer now digitally, sitting out of their offices or sitting out of their homes, which was not the case. That's a big shift again from the perspective of what I would call a dramatic change in terms of how banking is happening today.
Correct.
Third piece, and which is the slightly scary piece, is how one sees the future, because one believes that the way the world is going and the way the new age companies today are coming up with newer business models, I would say that you could end up, the new age companies could end up owning the consumer because of the convenience or because of the comfort they provide or because of the services they provide. And banking could become a service provider to these new age companies.
Very interesting.
So when you make a payment on Google Pay or a Phone Pay, the consumer is not even thinking of the bank. But while the back end is being provided by the bank to these apps which are getting used. So this is just a small thing. So
and that's a very interesting comment for me to move to the next section, which is really the digital revolution. And you said technology is now driving a lot of banks. What is digital revolution doing to bring about an incredible amount of financial inclusion in our country?
No, the landscape is changing dramatically. I must say that again from the perspective of financial inclusion, and technology is having the biggest role to play here because of, I would say, the telecom revolution, where effectively every person on the street today would have connectivity on their phones and they are consuming content on the fly. And this is true across the strata of the society. It's not true only for the top end or the upper end of the society, but it is true of your maid or your driver or normal common laborer on the street as well. And so the telecom revolution is, what is happening is that the people are today consuming a lot of product and services digitally. And I would say that they are effectively leaving a dramatic amount of digital trail, if I may call it, as when they consume products and services, they leave a lot of digital trail in terms of their own individual data, in terms of their behavioral patterns, in terms of their preferences, in terms of their choices that they make. That is when it comes to individuals.
Right.
The second thing is with respect to what the government has done in terms of today GST data, IT returns data, in terms of your e-way bills, or with respect to even toll related data, DRT, DBT, which the government has pushed through the Jandan accounts, etc. Now there is dramatic amount of data and information which is available on companies as well as on individuals.
Correct.
And the banks are in a position to make tremendous use of this data to really create the financial inclusion that we are talking about. And I'm not saying only banks, it is about banks, NBFCs, fintechs, where they are in a position to use this data to provide products and services which in the normal course were these banks or NBFCs were not able to provide because of the operating cost of reaching out to a customer and servicing a customer.
Very interesting.
And that is what is technically changing the landscape, and the financial inclusion piece is what we are seeing is going up in a big way. Okay. Of course, we have only scratched the surface, is what I would say, because from the perspective of still people whom the financial inclusion touches at the lower end, it is still a very much smaller number. Right. But my sense is that this is a piece which will see an explosion in terms of where one sees the next level of growth coming in for
very interesting
in the financial services.
Very interesting. So a follow-up question to that, Manish, would then be that given the fact that if we are moving towards so much digitization, do you see India and a large part of the world moving into a cashless economy?
My take on this is I don't see that happening very, very soon.
Okay.
For multiple reasons. The economy like US, which is where the internet availability, etc., and people are far more aware of products, and it is a far more banked market from that point of view. Almost every single person would have usage of some digital payment mode. Still, it is not that cash has gone out of the system. The convenience of cash is something which will take its time before it kind of moves out completely. And in a place like India, it is also the issue of why cash is used so much in the system is because of the parallel economy that runs, right? All of us know about it. We have seen it for the longest of time. And hence, it's not a easy thing to remove completely. And while I can only say that the pandemic, while it is unfortunate for the entire world, it has dramatically pushed the usage of digital medium in a dramatic way. And I'm sure that people like you, me, I know of enough number of people who now even make the payment of salary to your maid or a driver, or everyone has now gone digital.
Correct.
But that is not necessarily true of how they consume that cash which they get into their account. For them to get into a zone where they will start using a digital medium to make payments is when the actual revolution will start from a cashless point of view.
Okay.
So I believe it's still a while away. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Wonderful.
That's my take on it.
Wonderful. So let's move on to some more questions for you. You spent 25 years with Kotak, and I think you must have been fully involved in defining what are some of the core values of your organization. Would love you to share those.
So it's an interesting question, because obviously values and the culture of an organization gets built over a period of time, and
Absolutely.
Of course people build the values, people build the culture, and it is top down. Finally, when people say Jaisi Raja Vaisi Praja, so I guess people follow the leaders, people see their actions, and people see how you behave. So over a period, as we grew, and then we said that, okay, I think we should define what we stand for. There were 4 values which we talked about, or we talk about at Kotak today, which we defined about 15, 20 years back in our early part of the journey.
Right.
One was passion to achieve. Second is entrepreneurial mindset. Third is down to earth and approachable.
Okay.
Fourth is mutual respect and transparency.
Okay.
And I must say that these are things that we live it every day. Yeah, it's not something which you do it on a particular day, or do it in a particular interaction, or do it in a particular transaction, or you do it when it is needed. It is how people. So just to give you a small example, say when I say down to earth and approachable, we genuinely have a open door policy where the last guy in the chain has the ability to come to my room without taking an appointment from my secretary. Yeah, so I don't think that is how it really works. The way it works at Kotak is you have something to do, you have something to accomplish, something to complete, something to achieve, and you believe that I need to cut across layers to get a decision. You are most welcome to walk into anybody's cabin, get it done. It will be held against you if you actually said that I informed my boss and I was waiting for him to, speak to his boss and to his boss and, get the things done. So the push which is there is get things done. Don't say that hierarchy came in the way, because that's not how the organization is built. I'm just giving as an example of one of the values.
Wonderful. And my next question to you is, what is your leadership style? And you almost given me the answer of, no need to get an appointment. But what would you say is your leadership style?
So clearly, yes, I'm very passionate.
Okay.
So the aspiration to be the best in what I do, and of course that makes me a little pushy, because when I'm pushing excellence, of course I push boundaries in general. The second piece, which is very, very strongly there in my mind, and which I believe is very critical for anybody's success, is focus on execution. Finally, ideas are on paper, or ideas don't mean anything unless you execute well. And I believe that what differentiates businesses is not finally the strategy, because banking business is very simple. Similarly, most businesses are pretty simple, but what differentiates businesses is execution. And hence, strong focus on execution and rational decision making. And hence, I'm pretty analytical in terms of how I look at things, and I'm very detailed oriented. So, so big picture, but detail orientation is important.
Okay.
Third is something similar to what I said in terms of inclusive approach, which means I would involve people in decision making and create consensus to the extent possible, so that when you own a decision and you believe that you have participated in the decision, your ability to execute goes up dramatically.
Okay.
Because the passion or the energy behind implementation comes from when you own something, you put everything behind it to make it happen.
Okay.
Versus somebody has told you to do it.
Very interesting.
And fourth, of course, is I give tremendous independence and space to my team. But yes, that comes with accountability.
Very interesting.
Not that I lead from the front when it is needed, but otherwise I give people the space to perform deliver.
Very nice. So one more question for you before I move to the last segment on some questions for you personally. You must be working with very large team, and I'm sure a large number of your team members are millennials and Gen Zs. Over the years, how have you found managing a young group of people change?
This is truly an interesting one. I believe this is a generation which is, how I see this generation is, they are very, very technology savvy. I must say that my generation, I adapted to technology. This is a generation which is born enabled.
Yes.
Yeah. So technology comes very naturally to them. Second thing which I see about this generation is low attention span. Yeah, they need to do things. They keep doing multiple things, and hence they are more versatile. Very, very clearly, I know that when I would study, and when I used to play, there was cricket you would play, or you would play something in your neighborhood. But I guess the number of things which this generation does in terms of, from a versatility point of view, I believe it is much higher. But yes, with a lower attention span.
Right.
The third piece, which I feel they are very, very connected through social media. This generation is far more savvy on Instagram, or maybe some of the things I may not even know. I'm not the most connected person from a social media point of view. So it is very important for them how the people or the society around them sees them. So that's one thing. So social recognition, I believe, is very important for the millennials or the new generation. And the last thing I believe is they are ready to pay for convenience.
Wow.
They are ready to pay for an experience. My generation, of course, we never had the money to splurge on ourselves or all of that, but it was never about paying for an experience. You would want value for money. So this generation is ready to pay for experience, pay for instant gratification, if I may say, or pay for convenience if it gives them the comfort.
Very, very good.
So the way one would look at them from a leadership point of view, for them, for ensuring that such people are successful as part of your team, I guess you need to give them a lot of variety in their work. So you need to, if the attention span is lesser, or if they are more versatile, you need to test them in multiple areas. You can't say this is the job, do it for the next 30 years. Gone are the days. I don't think you will be able to attract any talent.
Very good.
The second piece is you have to figure out ways and means to provide them recognition for what they do. And give them an outlet for new ideas which they bring to the table.
Very good.
So those are the 2-3 things which come to my mind from the perspective of how we need to.
I think all of them are very, very good points. So I'm going to now move to the last segment of our conversation, which are some questions for you personally. And I think I have time for 2 questions for you. My first question to Manish is that, for someone who's achieved so much, who has, achieved a lot at very young ages, from where you stand today, what does success mean to you?
How I see success, it's a very personal and individual choice. I completely come from there. For me, it is about leaving a mark in whatever I do. So when I hand over something to the next, when I hand over the baton to the next person, the person should feel that, yes, there is something remarkable which has been created and which has been handed over to the person. So leaving a mark in whatever I do. The second important thing, it is more from the perspective of what I would call mind, and which is, it is about achieving with peace and happiness. You can't lose your peace with your achievements. If at the end of the day you feel very tired, you feel or you don't look forward to the mornings, and you feel that, so the achievement should not come as a burden. The achievement should make you happy. The journey of achieving whatever you are doing should be peaceful, and it should be enjoyable. It should be happy. So you should enjoy the journey. So I believe if you are enjoying the journey, I believe you are successful. So that's another way of looking at success for me.
Very interesting.
Third and most important piece for me is building something which is institutional, which will stand the test of time, which is, it's not that if tomorrow I'm not there in the business collapses.
Right.
It is about, it should continue to grow and flourish even if I'm not there. So which means, what it means in terms of action, of course, in terms of build strong processes, build a strong team. You should ensure that the culture and values that the firm has and which you have, and which is what marries you, the firm, also goes down the chain in terms of everyone imbibing those values. And lastly, from an individual point of view, success is also about continuously learning and changing with the times, and being ready to step out of my comfort zone at all points of time. So if there is something new to be done, I should not shy away from trying something new.
Right. Very, very interesting. I just want to thank you for such an amazing conversation. I loved your points about the millennials being born enabled. I think that's such a powerful comment. I also loved your point, about your own philosophy, where you say that nobody needs to go to my secretary to ask for an appointment. I think very, very powerful words that you have used. Thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, and really a pleasure speaking to you. And really, really appreciate the work that you're doing and what you're putting out. And I'm happy that you reached out to me, and I'm contributing in my own small way in your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.